Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be back with another tutorial video. I'm going to be going through DraftKings and FanDuel, showing you which contest you should be entering. I'm going to go through GPPs and cash games, show which is which and how you should be constructing your lineups for those specific contests. I know when a lot of people start playing DFS, they don't really know which contest to enter. They usually just chase that first place prize in those big tournaments, but that's usually not the best way to go. I know I did that when I first started playing DFS, and I did not have a lot of success doing that. So hopefully after this video is over with, you'll have a good understanding of which contest is which and which you should be entering specifically for yourself. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so just looking at the contests that show up when you first open the DraftKings lobby, these are your big GPPs. These are the contests that everybody plays in just because they have so much money into them. If you just look at this $5 buy-in tournament, 300,000 total prizes given away in this tournament. You notice if it has a G next to it, that pretty much means the contest is guaranteed. That means no matter how many people join this contest, it's going to run. So even if the contest doesn't fill, even if 70.5k people don't join, this contest will still run. So that pretty much means, or that's what the G means. You'll notice a lot of contests have that. But if you actually click on a contest, I have this extension from Roto Grinders. If you're on Google Chrome, or if you have a computer and you have Google Chrome, they actually have an extension that will actually show you how much of the field gets paid in a specific contest. So if you look at this 300k knuckleball, if you click on it, it'll tell you 23.01% of the field gets paid, which obviously you want to know. If you're entering any contest, you want to see how much of the field gets paid. And if you look to the right, you can see how the prize payout is structured, if it's a lot lower or if it's a heavy payout. So you'll notice out of the 70.5k possible people that could join this contest, even if you place in the top 8,000 or 8,400, you're only going to win $8. You're not even going to double your money. Even if you're placing in the top 2,000, you're just tripling your money, which obviously is great, but placing top 2,000 out of 70,000 people is definitely hard. It's definitely hard to do. But when you get into the top 100, this is where the real money starts to kick in. These are obviously the prizes that you're going to be chasing. These are the ones that you want the most. You'll notice there's a huge difference from third place to second place, and then from second place to first place. Obviously, the first place prize is what everybody is chasing. That's what everybody wants. You'll see there's a 35k difference from second place to first place, which is something to take note of before you're entering that contest. You're really just going to enter this contest to get to that first place prize. If you're someone that plays a lot of GPPs and you notice that you're just min cashing, you're just winning in the $8 to $10 range, obviously that's not bad because you're profiting. But I'll get down to cash games and show what those are. You should probably be playing more cash games if you're entering just GPPs and you're barely min cashing. If you're just winning in the lower range, you probably shouldn't be going as heavy in GPPs. You should probably be going more towards cash games, which is what I'll get into later. But yeah, that's pretty much what GPPs are. They're pretty much just those big tournaments. Now, if you notice some of these, they'll have the M next to them. That means how many times you can enter this certain contest. If you're somebody that just usually runs out one lineup, I would recommend trying to stay away from the 150 max tournaments, just because a lot of people are going to have 150 total lineups in there, and it's going to be hard to compete with just your one lineup. So I would recommend playing a lot of single entry contests. DraftKings, they do have great single entry tournaments at all different buy-ins. They have a $12 20k base hit. If you're someone that just plays one lineup, maybe you should enter a bunch of single entry tournaments, just because everyone has a fair advantage. Everyone gets one lineup into that contest, whereas if you're playing in the big 300k tournaments, someone could have 150 lineups in there, and I guess you could say that they have a little bit of an edge over you with just your one lineup. So if you're somebody that plays just one lineup a night, I would recommend going more to single entry tournaments. And then if we look over at FanDuel, FanDuel is pretty much the same thing. But if you notice with FanDuel tournaments, a lot of their tournaments are more top-heavy payout. Less of the field gets paid on FanDuel. So for example, when I click on a FanDuel tournament, you'll see only 19% gets paid in this $66 Grand Slam that they're having on Friday. You'll see that 3,565 people is the total max entries allowed. And if you notice, even if you place in the near top 100 out of those 3,565, you're barely going to double up your money. You're not even going to double up your money. But if you place 100 spots higher than in the 100th, you win $50,000. So on FanDuel, a lot of their tournaments are more top-heavy payout, which some people like, some people don't. Me specifically, I like the payout structure to be spread out. So that's why I don't really play a lot of GPPs on FanDuel. I don't like their payout structure. I feel like if I place in the top 100 out of 35,000 or out of 3,565 people, I should definitely get more than just double my buy-in. So that's why I try and stay away from FanDuel tournaments, but some people like that top-heavy payout. You'll notice that in this tournament, second place gets 25K, first place gets 50K. If we look back at that DraftKings tournament, it's a little bit different there. First place gets a lot more than second place. There's about a 2x difference on FanDuel, where if you look on DraftKings, second place gets 15K, where first place gets 50K. So a lot of the money on FanDuel goes towards the top, which is what you would chase, obviously, if you're entering a FanDuel GPP. And then one thing I want to show you guys, if you look right here where this margin and overlay, if you don't know what that is, margin, that pretty much is rake. If you don't know what rake is, that's pretty much the site fees. That's how much money DraftKings is pocketing out of this tournament. And I think near 15% is pretty ridiculous. So if, say, this $5 GPP was to fill, which it probably will, if you do $5 times the total amount of entries that can be entered, so 70.5K times $5, I would say that's about $350,000, and DraftKings guaranteeing they're going to give away 300K. So that extra 50K that's going into this contest is pretty much being put in a DraftKings pocket, which I think is pretty freaking ridiculous. Honestly, myself, I try and stay away from these tournaments just because I think the rake is too high. I feel like a lot of that extra money should be put back into the prize pool. Obviously, DraftKings and FanDuel, they do have to make money in order to run these sites, but taking 15% off a $5 tournament I think is pretty ridiculous. And if you'll notice, when the buy-in gets higher, the rake obviously gets lower. So for this $55 tournament, the rate, or DraftKings only pocketing 12% if this tournament fills. For the Gold Glove, DraftKings $1,000 or $1,500 buy-in, DraftKings is only pocketing 5%, which is pretty dumb in my opinion. A lot of the high-stakes tournaments that a lot of people can't enter have less rake, but a lot of the low buy-in GPPs that all the players enter, even the casual player enters or the beginners enter, is where all the money DraftKings is pocketing, which I think is pretty dumb in my opinion. Obviously, these sites do have to make money in order to run, but 15% is pretty dumb in my opinion. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever noticed that. It was just something that I was throwing out there. And then if you look at the blue part, this is overlay. This is pretty much how much DraftKings is having to add to the prize pool. So say this contest was to run right now and only 10,000 people joined, then DraftKings would have to add $247,000 to the prize pool, which would obviously be nice. But by the time this contest gets to start, like I said, I'm recording this video on Wednesday, and these are for the Friday games. So when Friday comes around, this GPP will probably be full, so there obviously won't be any overlay. But I always like to be at my computer in time for lock in case there are some tournaments that do have overlay. Obviously, the less players that you have to compete against, the better chance you have to win. So anytime you enter a GPP that has overlay, you're obviously giving yourself a better chance of winning, which is always nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it through GPPs. Just going through, those are the big tournaments. That's pretty much all I got to say. Looking at lineup construction for GPPs, obviously when you're playing GPPs, you're going to chase first place prize. So you have to construct a lineup that's going to differentiate yourself from everybody else. Obviously, it's going to be really hard to make a winning lineup, a first place lineup that has everybody over 20% owned. You're going to have to play an under the radar guy in order to win first place. So when constructing lineups for a GPP, you do want to differentiate yourself somehow. Does that mean you should stack against the top pitcher? Obviously not. So say Kershaw's going, say it's a small slate and Kershaw's like one of the top pitchers. You can't just go into the tournament saying, well, since everybody's going to play Kershaw, I'm going to stack against him. That's not really the way you want to think, because Kershaw rarely gets blown up. But say there is one hitter that you want to play against Kershaw that you think could give you a leverage, then maybe you take that one hitter and if he somehow hits a home run or something, that gives you a huge advantage over the field. So that's the mindset you have to have in tournaments. You can definitely play high-owned plays in tournaments. Everyone thinks that you just have to make a low-owned lineup in order to win in tournaments, but that's not true. You can definitely play all the top studs in tournaments that are going to be high-owned just because they have so much upside. but in order to get that first place, you're definitely going to have to differentiate yourself somehow. So for example, if everyone's playing one guy at 7K for their SP2, if there's a guy that's at 6K that you really like that has similar upside that's going to be a lot lower owned, maybe you play him over the 7K guy because he has similar upside. That's really the mindset you have to have when building lineups for GPPs. And I think that's pretty much it for GPPs. So now going into cash games. Cash games, this is where I like to play. This is where I have found the most profit in DFS. I think this is where everybody should start. If you are new to DFS, I do recommend playing a lot more cash games than tournaments. Cash games are pretty much the contests where about 50% gets paid and 50% wins, 50% loses. So since this contest doesn't have a G next to it, obviously 4 people have to join in order for it to run. But first and second win the same amount, and then if you place third and fourth, you don't win at all. And if you look up here, it'll show you 50% gets paid, obviously, and you'll notice the rake is a lot lower in cash games. Only 10% is being taken out in cash games. So for example, in that contest, if that cash game does fill, if you do $20 total entered, four max entries, that's $80. DraftKings is giving away $72. So they're only pocketing $8 out of this contest, which is what I like. That's why I like to play cash games, because the rake is a lot lower. Usually for all 50-50s, the rake is 10%. And you'll notice up here for double ups, the rake is actually a little bit higher depending on what the stake is. So for a $25 double up, the rake is 9%. For a $5, it's 13%. Personally, in my opinion, I don't play double ups. Usually the cash line in double up is a lot higher than 50-50s. And I don't think there's much of a difference between doubling up and winning in a 50-50. You notice if you cash in a $5 50-50, you'll win $9. If you cash in a $5 double up, you win $10. So there's not really much of a difference. And double ups are usually a little bit harder to win than 50-50s. So that's why I go to 50-50s. I think they're the way to go. They're definitely my favorite contest to play. Obviously, you want to play some tournaments every night to give yourself a chance at that first place prize. But I wouldn't recommend just unloading your whole bankroll into tournaments. Personally, me, I like to play about 80% into cash games and then about 20% every night into tournaments. So say I was going to play $100 on Friday night, I would put $80 into cash games and then put $20 into tournaments. That's usually the way I like to go. That's the way I have found the most success. And putting that 20% into tournaments does give me a big chance at that first place prize. And sometimes your lineup won't be good enough to cash in tournaments, but it'll still be good enough to cash in 50-50s, just because the cash line is a little bit lower in 50-50s. So that's why I like playing a lot more cash games than tournaments. I've found the most success playing cash games. So pretty much that's what cash games are. They're double ups, they're 50-50s. They're usually contests where 50% wins. Head-to-heads, those are also classified as cash games. And if you'll notice with head-to-heads, say you enter a $5 head-to-head, you'll notice how the winner will only get $9, obviously because of the rate, 10%. But if you guys have never heard of Fantasy Draft, I've been playing on Fantasy Draft a little bit. Their head-to-heads are actually rake-free, which pretty much means if you play a $5 head-to-head on Fantasy Draft, the winner will get $10 instead of $9, which is pretty great. If you're someone that likes to play a lot of head-to-heads, I would definitely recommend checking out Fantasy Draft. I've been playing over there for a little bit, getting some head-to-head action over there, and I have been able to profit pretty well. So check them out if you are someone that likes to play a lot of head-to-heads. But yeah, that's pretty much it for cash games. Cash games are usually your contests where about 50% wins. So double ups, 50-50s, head-to-heads, those are considered cash games. And when it comes to lineup construction for cash games, obviously if you look at a 50-50, we'll just pull up this one here. You'll notice that in this 10-man 50-50, first place wins the same amount as fifth place. So when building a lineup for cash games, you're obviously not trying to chase first place. You just want to get into the money. Even if you place fifth in this certain contest, you're still going to win the same amount as the guy that placed first. So when building a cash game lineup, you just want to roster the guys that are safe, that you know are going to get you points, that you know are going to get you to that green line. I know you've heard me in my videos say just to play the top pitcher in cash, and that's always something I recommend, because rarely does a stud pitcher get blown up. Rarely will you see Clayton Kershaw or Max Scherzer just put up in the negatives. So those are the kind of guys that you want to roster in cash just because they're so safe. And when it comes to rostering hitters for MLB in cash, I like to look at the run totals. If there is a team that has a very high implied run total, and if you notice a lot of their hitters are very cheap, those are the kind of hitters you want to target for cash. You also want to target batters that are batting towards the top of the lineup. You want your hitters to get the most plate appearances possible when making a cash game lineup. So that's pretty much how cash games go. Like I said, cash games are where I like to play. I found the most success. I like to just run one lineup in cash, run it in all my 50-50s. Just find one lineup that you really like that has the most safest plays, the most optimal plays, and then run that in all your 50-50s. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully it helped you out. Hopefully you know which contest you should be entering now. And another thing I want to tell you guys, so say, for example, if you're going to play $50 tonight and you want to enter into some GPPs, don't just put one entry into a $50 tournament. So say you have $55 in your DK account. Don't just put one entry into this full count tournament. Maybe put 11 lineups into this knuckleball, 11 different lineups. Give yourself a better chance of cashing, a better chance of profiting. That's always something I recommend. Not putting all your bankroll into one tournament. And the same thing goes with head-to-heads. Say you want to play $10 or $20 in head-to-heads one night. Don't just play one $10 head-to-head. Instead, play maybe 10 $1 head-to-heads or 5 $2 head-to-heads. Give yourself a better chance of profiting. Spread your action out a little bit because you never know. You could play a $10 head-to-head and have a really good lineup, but if your opponent has a better lineup than you, then you could still lose money. Whereas if you play 10 $1 head-to-heads and you have a really good lineup, there's a good chance you're going to profit in at least probably 7 or 8 of them. So always be sure to spread your action out as well. Get yourself more action and spread your money out across multiple contests. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped you guys. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I do want to do more tutorial videos like this, so if you have any requests, please be sure to leave them down in the comments. I would definitely be down to do anything you guys would like to see. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe if you did enjoy. If this is your first time on my channel, please be sure to subscribe. I will be doing more tutorial videos like this in the future. And I do also give out daily picks as well for DK. So be sure to subscribe if it's your first time on my channel. We have a ton of content rolling out. And then after you subscribed, if you never want to miss out on any videos, if you scroll down to where the subscribe button is, there is a little bell icon. If you click that bell icon, that'll actually notify you every time I upload. So be sure to do that as well if you never want to miss out on any videos. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace, guys.